Hello and welcome to another edition of True Audiofiles. My name is Jim Carter, and this week we're going to actually have two videos like we did a few weeks ago because, again, I have interviewed another record store employee. This time it's the manager of Drastic Plastic Vinyl Lounge, otherwise known previously as Drastic Plastic and Drastic Plastic Underground, like you see on my shirt. So, and then after this video, the second video I'll have this week is all the records that I picked up on my trip to Omaha. So hang tight, watch the video. It's a little long. I apologize actually ahead of time because I had some mic issues because I had the settings set wrong on my mic, so there's going to be a little bit of noise. I'm going to try to get rid of some of that in editing, and but you're still going to probably hear some of it, so I apologize about that ahead of time. But without further ado, please enjoy the video with my interview of the manager of Drastic Plastic Vinyl Lounge. We're here with Neil from Drastic Plastic. I guess it's called Drastic Plastic upstairs now, is it? Like
Drastic Plastic Vinyl Lounge.
Ah, okay, that's right. Because you guys used to be Drastic Plastic Underground and Drastic Plastic.
Proper.
So, why don't you give me a little bit of history of the place?
Okay, sure. Mike Howard opened Drastic Plastic in 1982 over on, it was South 24th Street. I can't remember the exact address. But then a year later, he moved, in 83, he moved to 13th Street, just right around the corner over here. That was the store I shopped in when I was a high school student.
Excellent.
And so Drastic had a formative force. It was a formative force, I guess, for all of the young kids back then who were into punk rock or into any sort of iconoclastic tendency. Mm-hmm. And it was a great thing to have back then. So that sort of was my first exposure to Drastic Plastic. It then moved to just down the block here on the Howard Street proper, and I think it was about 91, 92 maybe. And that's when the first expansion happened, which was into developing screen printed shirts for sale to other stores, wholesale, so wholesale licensing.
Yeah.
And that really took off in the late 90s and even more so in the 2000s. And so that eventually spun off into its own division and is called Impact Merchandising, which still exists today. And it went from originally just doing tour merch for the Toasters to now selling worldwide such licenses as Disney, Marvel,
Pretty big.
yeah, David Bowie, Pink Floyd, AC/DC, and tons of others. So that spun off. All that equipment originated, the screen printing equipment, in the basement of the original Drastic, what I think of as the 13th Street location, and then was the back room over at the other location. So when Impact sort of took off, it moved, and then Drastic expanded, and we started carrying a lot of T-shirts. And I don't know how familiar you are with Drastic, but that kind of became one of our calling cards over the years, was having the screen printed T-shirts.
I'm pretty familiar with the one, the underground one. I didn't go to the other one.
Okay, so the underground happened. I came on in an official capacity. My brother had worked here prior to that as a screen printer. In 2000s, my background had been in publishing, and I had my own little company which had closed. So when, how do I phrase it? They were, I don't want to say Drastic was on the verge of closing, but it was doing very poorly at the time because music, it was in the mid-2000s, physical product was at its, especially the early mid-2000s, 2003, 04. It was not a great time for physical product.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah, you had, not only did you have the piracy, the downloading of the illegal files, but you also had in the distance, you had the sort of Amazon effect. So I got with Mike, and we kind of put our heads together to come up with different things we could do to kind of make the store viable again. And we did. We came up with all these Nebraska shirts, and not the specific designs, but the idea to sell them. And that did very well for us, and it really reinvigorated our base and brought them back in. We brought in a ton of CDs because of the situation at the time. You could actually get them pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So we were able to sell good catalog CDs at a fairly inexpensive price. And between those two things and some more minor things, we were able to sort of bring it back each year a little more, a little more, a little more. And then the vinyl resurgence happened. And then we couldn't keep vinyl in stock to save our lives. We were doing weekly orders, and it was a really grand time. So we decided to expand, and that's when Velvet Underground, Drastic Plastic Underground was conceived, and we built that record store. And it was fairly successful for a while, and then it sort of plateaued because of, definitely at that point, it was the Amazon effect. We had a lot of people coming in, checking prices, and you're going to find a cheaper price every single time if you're going to compare online. You have the patience and you have the soullessness to support Amazon over a local business. Then I'm sorry if I seem biased on that.
No, I get
so it's at that point we decided, what can we do? That's what we did before. We were always just asking the question, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do to make the cultural experience, which is what we love about the store, relevant and valid? And so we decided, let's make a little bar. That way people can come and have a community, to talk about their vinyl and listen to the vinyl and hopefully buy the vinyl.
Yeah.
And then when we decided we wanted to get into the hospitality industry, it was like a whole new set of rules for that. So it was not viable. It would have been prohibitively expensive to turn a record store into a bar at that underground location, just because of the way the codes are. We would have had to have redo plumbing because we were changing our certificate of occupancy. We're going from one kind of store to a different kind of store, and then you have to bring everything up to code.
Right.
So we priced it out at both locations. The other location had stayed, as you probably remember, and it was really focused on clothing. We did carry vinyl there too, but only just a smattering, as sort of a reminder to people that it was across the street. So we looked at doing the bar over there, and again, it was prohibitively expensive. But the way around this, the way for it not to be so expensive, was to purchase an existing business that is already in the hospitality thing, because you can sell, if you're already established as a bar, you can sell vinyl in your bar and you're fine.
Okay.
But if you're already established as a vinyl store, in order to sell beer there, that's a no way. You can't do that. Well, you can. You just got to bring everything up to code. So that's when we knew Katie O'Connor. This was O'Connor's. We'd known her a long time. She was looking to get out, and she was looking. It just was like a perfect storm. And so we decided to come in here. Now, that said, we had never, until we started talking to her, envisioned doing something so grand. Like, we didn't expect we were going to do a full-on bar with a kitchen and the whole thing. So when we were able to come to terms with the landlord and with Katie, we decided we probably needed a different theme. So that's where we came up with the horror thing, because we're just as passionate about horror movies as we are vinyl. Maybe not quite as passionate, but it was certainly fun. And so that was the genesis of the Monster Club downstairs, and of course we wanted Drastic Plastic up here. In order to help us finance it, though, we had to fire sale all the records and turn them into cash, which worked. It turns out, if you sell vinyl for 50% off, everybody buys it.
It's true.
So we fire saled all that. We built this up here, and now, I mean, I don't know if you were coming here when we first opened, but we only had just a couple of racks of vinyl, and then we added another, and then we added another, and we added another, and we just put in the order for another one to come, and we're going to fill that too. So hopefully we'll just keep filling and filling and filling, and continuing to head towards the direction of having the fantastic selection we had at the Underground, which we were all really proud of. The Underground selection, the layout, the theme, the way it was just we felt we built the record store that we always wanted to shop in, and we were super proud of it. It was really, really hard to let it go. There were literal tears involved when we had to do it, but we're also really proud of this.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, kind of a little story about, how I stumbled across this is I travel for work about once a month, and I actually have business in South Dakota, but Omaha Airport's easier to fly in and out of. So, but yeah, I was coming here for a few years to the underground, and I came earlier last year, and you guys I think had just closed it down. I had no idea. I just went there and saw that it said thank you for your patronage. And I'm like, what? I want the Japanese pressings you guys, which we'll talk about a little bit. But so I didn't even know that you guys were even doing this. I saw a sign saying look for the Monster Club, but I didn't realize you were going to actually have the records here too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was a pleasant surprise when I stumbled across it today when I came back for the first time since that trip. So
That's great. I'm glad we were here for you. We could have been. I'll be the first one to acknowledge. We could have been done a lot better job of communicating exactly what we were doing to the masses. We did so on our Facebook pages, but obviously we should have put up posters. We should have done something better because even Record Store Day shut us down because they thought we had closed permanently.
Yeah, she was mentioning that. Well, and you look at the Drastic Plastic Underground and the Drastic Plastic Yelp sites, and it says these are closed, and I don't think it says anything about the new location at all.
That's a bummer.
I have to look because I didn't look in detail. I just looked them up and saw that it said they were closed. So I'm like, well, all right, it's still closed. And then the Drastic Plastic website doesn't say anything either, so it's kind of confusing for me. So
right, like I said, we could be better.
Yes, but anyway, I'm glad you guys are here. So, but then you also kind of talking about the Drastic Plastic website and the reissues because we didn't really talk about that. How did that all get started?
Good point. I should have mentioned that. Yeah. So part of that time during when we were building the store back from the early 2000s decimation, one of the ideas for a revenue stream was to reissue vinyl. Now, through Impact, we were very familiar with the licensing game. We had established relationships with all the majors, and we had tons of contracts with independent acts.
Yeah.
Agent Orange, for example. So we decided that we would parlay this into actually putting out vinyl, and a dream of ours. Mike Howard in the early days had put out a couple of local bands on vinyl, but I think it was mostly contracted work. He said, this is what I want, and then other people made the vinyl. So when we were going to actually, choose our master and sign off on the mastering, choose our presser, and get in down and dirty on ordering exactly what we wanted, it was our first sort of huge hurdle was to get educated about it because we wanted to put out the best. If we were going to do it, we wanted to do the best.
Yeah.
So the first few pressings were a little dodgy. We think we got pretty good product, but it wasn't the sort of product that we really knew that we were going to be comfortable with until we contracted to put out the first 3 Clash records. And Sony insisted that those go, our rep there, insisted that those go through RTI, which we were super happy about because RTI at that time wouldn't even talk to us. They weren't taking new business. So those records sounded amazing. Yeah. And at that time, Kevin Gray, who's become our, I guess our house master, he masters everything.
He masters, a bunch of audiophile stuff,
So he was at RTI at that time. And so we basically used that connection as a springboard to figure out everything else. So it turned out Gary, forgetting his last name, but he, the engineer down at QRP, was the longtime engineer, one of them, at RTI.
Yeah.
And so he went to QRP, which was a startup.
Yeah, he was head of the pressing plant or something at RTI, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had figured out how to make vinyl that sounds perfect. I mean, it even sounded better than the RTI pressings because at this new place, he was unfettered to do whatever he wanted. And he came up with this mix of composites for his vinyl, which is, I can't remember, he's super proud of it, but X percentage used vinyl, X percentage brand new vinyl, and then like X percentage magic dust or something. And he would put this all together, and you listen to it, and he knew the exact weight he wanted. He's like, we advertise him as 200 gram, but it's really like 191 and a half. It's like the sweet spot. And you put them on, and it is absolutely the perfect audiophile listening experience.
Yeah, the QRP 200 gram stuff's really good.
Yeah, super excited about that. So we got what we wanted. We got our master, we got our pressing plant, and then the last piece was figuring out where to get the printing done. And Stoughton was by far the best. That wasn't that much of a mystery.
No.
You just sort of had to swallow and accept the prices that all of these people were charging. QRP actually was fairly competitive at the beginning.
Yeah.
They've all gotten more expensive over the years.
Especially now that both QRP and RTI are doing those super audiophile ones for either analog productions or for MoFi. Those
right.
$100 and $125 pressings that they're doing now on super vinyl.
We'll see how much of a market there really is for that.
Yeah, they're selling out, so I guess there's enough of a market for them to continue, but it is I don't know how much longer that's going to be either. So, but yeah, no, I've got a couple of your pressings, and I really enjoyed them.
Cool.
So
that's
really
fantastic. When we opened this place, we sort of took a break a little bit from the label. We have certain licenses that we continue to press, but we haven't really taken on anything new in about 18 months, and that's going to be changing. We got a whole list of things that we want to get back into.
Nice.
So
awesome.
We'll keep that going.
Very cool.
It was way cooler back when we first started.
Oh, I bet.
The birthday party, when we did those initial pressings of the birthday party. You're familiar with that band, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we didn't know if they were too obscure or because of Nick Cave, they were going to sell or they weren't going to sell. So we put out our feelers. We decided to do 1,000 of each title. We worked directly with the band on that. And like within 24 hours, we had 9,000 orders for them.
Oh my God.
And we were like,
there's the answer.
Here we go. So at that time, we put all of our pieces together, as I was saying before, and decided that, we can charge $29.98 for a record, which is ultimately what the price point had to be, with the best vinyl, the best packaging, and then the major label getting their cut as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what audiophile labels, for the most part, they're in that ballpark for their standard audiophile pressings. And I mean, hell, even the new release stuff is sometimes more than that, which I have a hard time justifying the cost for a non-audiophile.
A lot more people are really finding the cost harder to swallow.
Well, yeah, I mean, one example that I have is, I'm not a huge fan of Lana Del Rey, but I think all of hers are like $40 a piece. I'm just like,
Neil Young too. He insists,
that's too.
He insists that they be of a certain audiophile quality in there. Like the cheapest one, I think, is $35.
Yeah, it's just hard to justify that cost, especially when you can buy like a Japanese pressing or an early pressing in perfect condition for less money.
Yes, absolutely. So that's why going forward, we're going to try to be conscious of that and still create great pressings, but we're not going to do audiophile anymore. We're going to try to keep our price points around $20.
You have to make money.
Yeah, people have to buy them.
Yes.
The last few we did, they didn't sell nearly as well as the first ones, and I don't think they're undesirable titles, and I don't think, given the right conditions, people would want Hanoi Rocks for $29.98. But now that they have such a larger selection, and the major labels are putting out so much. When we started, they weren't putting out anything.
Yep.
Now they're all putting out a ton.
Yeah.
And they can do it cheaper because they don't have to be the middleman.
Yeah.
They have the middleman.
It's true. Well, the interesting thing now is going to be with that lacquer plant that burnt down. I know that there's another plant, I think it's in France or Germany, that's looking to get up online, but they're probably about a year out too. So that's probably going to affect your
pressing plant
too. Well, that was the lacquer plant.
Yeah, no, the pressing plant, I was just going to say, the guy in Chicago, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Those guys were here on Friday, and they were telling me about that as well.
Yeah.
About the plant over there in, is it Germany?
Well, yeah, I think it's either Germany or France. But
Okay.
yeah, I have a friend that cuts for Sterling,
Hmm.
and I asked him about that, and it's like, yeah, well, we did get a majority of our stuff from that plant that burnt down, but we also there's one other place that makes lacquers, and it's a place in Japan, but they won't take on any new customers. So people who haven't been going to them are gonna have a hard time getting lacquers for a while. So it's gonna be tight. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that
It will.
between them and the crappy. What's the name of that distribution? Um, the
Oh,
spot, or I can't remember. There's a
and
everybody, all the labels go through this one distribution company now that screwed everything
it's
up
the
last
worst,
year.
man.
Yeah.
I order for the record store, and it's the worst.
Yep.
Like towards the end of the year, WEA was sending out, Warner Brothers was sending
Yeah.
out notices. Don't buy your product through us. Buy it through a one-stop like Alliance, because One Shot. That's the name.
That's
of it.
one shot. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it, yeah.
One Shots. Just they're you want it for Christmas. There's just no way.
Yep.
So you should order it through Alliance as much as you can.
Yeah, it's crazy. So how's Record Store Day been for you? I mean, obviously it sounds like probably this one was a little rough, but in general, how's it been for you guys?
Well, we missed the one. I mean, we weren't open yet for Record Store Day last year,
Right.
so that one was terrible.
Yes. Awful. Couldn't do any worse.
So, Record Store Day, Black Friday, that's when we were clued into the fact that we were not an authorized Record Store Day seller anymore. And it's not as easy as just calling them up and saying, "Hey, there's a mistake.
I'm sure.
We just moved down the block," and they're like, "No, we have to verify it, and you got to go into a queue, and nobody works here. We only have volunteers, and blah blah blah." And you got to appreciate what they do. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. So we missed Record Store Day, Black Friday, but we are authorized and good to go for this Record Store
Awesome.
Day. So we're hoping it'll be good. We haven't decided exactly how we're going to do it. I mean, in my heart of hearts, I'd like to take everything downstairs, keep the Monster Club closed for the first half of the day,
Yeah.
and just let people shop down there.
Especially just for the Record Store Day release stuff, because that way it'll keep the traffic a little
Yeah.
looser. But
I think so.
yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. But generally speaking, you've had good Record Store Day's been good for you guys.
Previously?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And has it just been continually
I'll tell you
growing
this.
and growing?
Yeah, let me tell you the story of Record Store Day. So when they did the first one and I saw it, I thought it was the dumbest idea I'd ever heard of, and I didn't order a single thing. And it turns out I couldn't have been more wrong. So every year after that, yes, it's been incredible. I can't believe the lines we get. We probably do, I don't know what the percentage would be, but maybe 10 to 20 times more business on Record Store Day than our busiest other day
Wow.
of the year.
That's incredible.
It is. It's incredible. And people are so good. The customers are so fantastic because we have one register, which is plenty for the other
Yeah, for
364
regular
days of the year.
But not that day.
But on that day, they'll stand in line for like 3 hours, man. And we give them coffee and donuts and all that
that's
stuff.
awesome.
But they're great.
Well, I have Newberry Comics by me, so you've probably heard of them because they're big. Well,
We
chain,
sell
but
we sell
independent.
T-shirts to them.
Yeah, well, there you go. And they make exclusive titles, kind of sort of like you're doing, but a little bit different because they specialize just kind of like colored pressings and stuff like that. But it's awesome for me because the one I go to is in a mall, so you can actually go into the mall and stay nice and warm and just kind of wait there. But yeah, the lines get crazy.
It is. It's insane.
So
Go ahead.
no, sorry. What were you gonna say?
The Black Friday titles. I think if you're into records and you're constantly around them and you pay attention to all the Record Store Days, I do think there was an arc, and at a certain point after their arc, it feels like the major labels especially are struggling to put out the same quantity of product,
Yeah.
and they can't sustain the quality of those records. Like
Well,
every
yeah.
once in a while there'll be good ones, but it just seems like the cool titles you can get goes down a percentage point or two every year.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping they come up with some good stuff this year.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that. I can't say there was anything that I absolutely needed to have the past couple of times, but generally when I end up going there and looking through everything, I still spend more money than I should have. But yeah, I would agree with that. That there's very rarely, or there are fewer that I say, oh, I absolutely have to have that title. So what do you think are your biggest sellers, like from a genre's perspective here?
Genres.
Sounds like probably punk or indie. Stuff.
No.
No.
I mean, that is our heart and soul is punk rock. And its inception in the 80s, Drastic was pretty much strictly punk and post-punk.
Yeah.
And industrial.
Okay.
But now, we love that stuff and we carry it all, but nobody buys it right now. It's not in cycle.
Huh.
Some people do. I mean, nobody's a strong word, but the best genre by far is classic rock.
That makes sense.
And after that, it's probably indie.
Oh,
We sell a lot of indie stuff like that. Can't keep that. I don't know if it qualifies now that she won so many Grammys with that Billie Eilish.
Yeah,
we
it's a
couldn't
great
keep that thing in stock. And then after that, we probably do sell our fair share of punk and post-punk still, just because we push it down people's throats and play it all the time.
So you gotta have it. Awesome. Talk to me about how you guys got the Japanese pressings. I think I heard something about it, but I don't know exactly how you guys acquired it.
Okay, so that's Mike Howard.
Okay.
Curates that thing personally. And he goes out, he has lots of different places he gets them. Some are eBay, some are physical places. I don't really know what they all are. But
I got the impression it was like one big purchase that he made.
It wasn't one.
Oh, okay.
Everybody, the accounting department would be a lot happier if it had been limited to one purchase.
I'm sure. Oh, interesting. So
But
he's just really into Japanese vinyl.
He loves it, and he gets it all. I think maybe a lot of them were from one place. I mean, if he finds a hoard of it, he's going to spend as much as he can. But he buys it personally on his own dime, and then he puts them on consignment here, which is so the store gets like a small markup, but we don't have to like invest in the inventory. So
Nice.
it's pretty good, and he's as intelligent a purveyor and vinyl connoisseur as any human being I've ever met. I've been to that making vinyl conference. So he also has a near photographic memory. So
I wish I did. I
he can
sometimes buy
remember
stuff.
grades, and he can. He's remarkable.
I wish I'd had that because I definitely buy stuff that I forgot that I bought sometimes. I'm trying to get all my stuff on Discogs, but it's still not all in there. So
We all do that, Jim.
Yeah. I've done that a couple times. I've gotten home like, oh no, I did have this. All right, so well, again, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
You bet.
Love the store. I love especially the Japanese pressing. That's the main reason why I come in. So
Cool.
But look forward to seeing you guys expand. And I think I heard mention that you're probably gonna start getting the T-shirts in and maybe the tote bags and stuff like that again, because I used to always pick that stuff up too. So
It's going to be in a more limited capacity.
Yeah.
But yes, we are.
awesome.
Thank
Thank
you, Jim.
you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.